In e-commerce, nobody asks if I've done SEO for a furniture store before. They ask if I've done SEO for an e-commerce store before. In this video, I want to talk about niche selection and specialization. Should you pick a niche and a specialization with your agency, or should you just do everything for everyone? Well, I think you get the point already from the way I said that you obviously don't want to do everything for everyone, but is there a balance, or should you just go very, very specific? Well, let's start this off by saying I don't know exactly, right? I don't really know for everyone what is the best solution. It depends on your current situation. So the best thing for me is to share what I am doing, explain why I'm doing it, and you can make your own decision from there. So if you've been following the agency progress so far, I started an agency about a month and a half ago, and we decided to do e-commerce SEO. And that is not really a niche so much as a specialization, right? We work with e-commerce brands. It's kind of a niche, but it's very, 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 very broad. It's like saying we work with local businesses. There is millions upon millions upon millions of local businesses. It's not really a niche, but it's a start, okay? So we work with e-commerce businesses. We're specifically started obviously in the UK because I'm from the UK, but again, that's not really a niche, that's just a starting point. We're gonna branch out later to the US, Australia, wherever, it doesn't matter, it's e-com. Now, beyond this, what is our niche or specialization? Well, we don't have a niche. I don't have a niche. I'm not focused on any particular niche. We'll take any niche of e-com store as long as they're not a startup, they're not like a very small business, not like an offline business that's just launched, anything like that. Basically just new businesses, I don't want to work with them, but that's the same regardless of niche. So again, that doesn't really matter, it's just a filter process. The only thing that is really specific is not actually the niche, it's our specialization. And our specialization is in technical SEO. So when we talk to a client, we're not pitching them on our ability to build links. We're not pitching them on our ability to write content or do content marketing, anything like that. We're pitching them on our ability to do technical SEO to help them rank their product and category pages, basically. That is our angle, that is our pitch. Now, the reason we're doing this is because one, that's what we're actually really good at, and that's what we like doing. Beyond that is because you need to have something. Right? It is extremely complicated for multiple reasons to do everything, even just in SEO. If we work with e-commerce brands and we did multiple platforms, again, we're only focused really on Shopify right now because it's easier. But if you do multiple platforms, then that's complexity already. Then on top of that, there is link building. Well, you really need a link building team for that. I have a separate business for that, so we just run it through my other business. We do content marketing. Then we have to like write content, or that's part of it. And I don't want to manage a massive team of writers and then all the fact checking, the quality checking with clients. It's a total pain. And even things like web design, some people will do like web design or CRO to improve the conversions so it converts better. Well, again, then you need a team for that. I don't really want to do that. And other things, maybe even one of the things we don't do is we don't create pages. We don't create pages, we don't create categories, anything like that on our client stores. We'll tell them what categories to create, they create it, and then we will optimize it. And the reason for that is simple, they know their business better than us. I don't want to go in there or have someone go in there on my team and like assign all the products to the correct category and stuff like that. It just gets messy. So we don't do a lot of things. And what that allows us to do is be very, very focused on what we're working on. Again, we're mostly focused on technical SEO, on page SEO. So what does that mean? We do some of these other things, but like we don't write content, again, we don't create pages, and we offer links, but it's an additional service, and we just charge them a flat rate per link, and it's basically bought from my other business where I have at linezone.com, we sell links like guest posts and link insertions, right? And that's how that works. It's very, very simple. So we have a specialization. It allows us to streamline and almost, not quite, almost productize our service because it's the same sort of thing. It's a crawl and audit of the website from a technical perspective and on-page perspective when we sign that client, as in looking at Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and then doing some sort of crawl using a tool like Screaming Frog, combining this all together into an audit, and then reviewing the whole site, deciding what exactly we need to do from the technical and on-page SEO perspective. Then keyword research, we still do that. So it is a full campaign, but we specialize. We tell the client, here's what we do, and here's very much what we do not do. And that allows us to stand out. Now, there's other benefits of this also. when it comes to sales, this is a massive, massive advantage. And it's very simple why. For me personally, if I'm selling to a local business, my technical knowledge doesn't really matter. You know, you can't really impress a local business that much, and most of them are kind of not real business owners in a way. They're just self-employed, and they have a skill, and they want to take their skill out there and make money from it for themselves rather than having a boss. And that is okay, but what you're going to find is most of those people have a strict budget, and they're really looking at the cost versus the ROI. They're not looking at it from an investment ROI perspective, they're looking at it from a cost perspective. So when you're trying to sell them, say, a $3,000 package, even if the ROI is there, they're just not going to buy into it in most cases. In local SEO, you're looking at kind of an upper end of maybe $2,500 a month. You can get more, but just generally speaking, about $2,500 is kind of the upper end of those deals. With e-commerce, however, that is the lower end of those deals. $2,500 a month is quite low for e-commerce. Again, it's not so bad if you're adding links on top of that, but that's the lower end of e-commerce SEO. And because I'm a very technical person and I know how to sell and I'm a business owner myself, it allows me to really easily communicate with e-com site owners. Because when I'm talking to them and they can see my technical knowledge, they know, hey, this guy really knows his stuff. Again, we're focused on the technical side, not the links, not the content marketing, because we know that stuff, I know that stuff, but I can really shine when I'm selling technical SEO. And then I actually do know how to sell. I'm not the best at it. I've interviewed people on my show, on my channel here, that are way better at sales than me. But when you combine those two areas together, plus the fact that I'm a business owner, so I can talk business, I understand ROI, I understand how this stuff works. So when you combine these three things together, there is very few people I believe that can sell better than me. Sure, they can sell better than me to other markets. But if we're talking e-commerce business owners for technical SEO services, there's very, very few people that know how to sell that better than I can, because there's guys that are better at sales than me, there's possibly guys that are better at the technical SEO elements than me, there's very few people that are as good in both as I am. So that is where my strength really lies. That is why I selected that niche, among other things like higher payouts and easier clients to work with in terms of a communication and ROI selling perspective. Now, does that mean you should do e-commerce SEO? Well, no, because the way I just explained that is it ties in very well with my strengths. What are your strengths? Because with e-commerce SEO, there's a lot of things you should consider. Number one, it is a lot of work. Now, e-com isn't that difficult. It's still the same thing. It's still keyword research. It's still on-page SEO. Obviously, technical SEO is more important, but it is at scale, right? And that is the thing that matters. It is at scale. Optimizing 50 pages is one thing. Optimizing 5,000 pages, 10,000 pages, 50,000 pages, well, that's a completely different story. It's the same work in a way, but it is at scale, and it brings a new problem of prioritization. It's not just about knowing what to do, it's knowing what to do in which order, which adds a whole another level of complexity to your campaigns that I love. I enjoy that, plus the addition of technical SEO being so important because it's such a big site. That is where I thrive, that is where my team thrives, but that is not for everyone. Now, if that is for you, then hey, maybe this is good for you, but it's just something to consider. You have to do what is right for you. If you're a beginner, I usually suggest going local SEO, and then on top of that, I would specialize further in a niche. Now, again, I'm not in a niche. I'm just working with any e-com brands because we're very specific anyway. Again, we do e-commerce for Shopify stores, for technical SEO services. That is very, very, very specific already. So that's okay, that's good enough. If you're just doing local SEO, well, local SEO is pretty much the same whether you work with a lawyer or a dentist or a construction business, right? It's all the same thing anyway, and you could specialize in just your city, and that works, people have done that, or you can specialize in a single vertical, in a single industry, and that also works very well. But you want to do something that allows you to sell easier. For me, in e-commerce, nobody asks if I've done SEO for a furniture store before. They ask if I've done SEO for an e-commerce store before. So that's specific enough, especially when combined with the service being very specific also. For local businesses, when you speak to a dentist, they're going to ask you, hey, have you done SEO for a dentist before? What's the results? right? They're going to ask you if you worked in their industry. So if you're doing local SEO, I would recommend specializing in a specific industry on top of just doing local SEO. That's going to allow you to sell way easier and again streamline your service because you kind of know the keywords, you kind of know a bunch of sites to build links from and everything like that. You have a process in place basically for that industry already. Makes it a lot easier, but more than that, sales again. Because sales, when you can email them, and here's a great email template for you guys by the way, you can email them and say, hey, I helped this dentist, name the dentist, get an additional 74 patients last month. Well, that's a really freaking good email because you're showing real results. You can make that even better by saying, hey, I've worked with 33 dentists this year and generated an additional, I don't know how many leads, 200 leads or inquiries or patients in the last month. Well, that is an even better message then because again, it stockpiles, it compounds on top of each other. So the better results you get, the easier and easier and easier it will be to land new clients. So if you just look at the Inc. 5000 list, you will see niche agency after niche agency after niche agency because they are doing exactly this. They focus on one single industry and then they scale that, and as you scale, it gets easier and easier and easier because it's the snowball effect, aka compounding. Now that is my advice. But I'm not really doing that because I'm doing e-com and that's just what works for me. So hey, take it as you will, decide what you want, but really think about what fits your skill set. If you're really well known in your local community, it's really easy for you to go out and meet people in your local community, then focus on your city. This can be really, really effective. Focus on your city, become the guy in your city for SEO or for Facebook ads or for whatever the heck it is you want to sell, it doesn't matter. If you're like me, and you're an anti-social computer nerd that would rather not leave your house unless you absolutely had to, or you're gonna eat, that's a very good reason also, then that's probably not gonna work for you. But if you're like me and you're very technical, then hey, maybe combine that technical ability with your sales ability and focus on e-commerce or something where that shines, you know? So this is really about self-awareness. It's about understanding who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, combining that, and then making a decision from there. I cannot do that for you. I wish I could because so many people get stuck here and they're like, should I pick a niche? Should I specialize in this? Should I do that? And they spend months thinking about this. To be honest, guys, when I started this, I was gonna go for SaaS and e-com and basically all these like online digital businesses. And then they're like, okay, let's just start with e-com. So I'm saying now that this is a perfect tie-in for my strengths. We didn't even start with that, it just kind of happened. We started just saying we're gonna do e-com and SaaS and like digital businesses. We started with e-com because it was easier to start with, that was the only reason. And then as we're doing this, we're kind of realizing, hey, this is actually perfect for the service we wanna sell and for, again, my strengths as the sales guy, as the guy that's pushing and promoting these services. Among other things, I still run the business, it's my business, right? But look at your strengths and your weaknesses. Focus on what is gonna work really well for you. Think about the long term of growing this. Again, initially, maybe you just wanna do everything. Maybe you just wanna work with everyone because you need money, and this is what I did, and you need experience. And that's fine. If you're just starting out, I used to sell web design, I did a little bit of AdWords, I did a little bit of SEO. Do a bit of everything if you want to. Do it for everyone, and that's okay because it's about building up experience, it's not about building a scalable business. But when you want to build a scalable business, that is a different model altogether, and then I recommend you have a niche or you specialize or you do both. And when you're picking your niche and your specialization, focus on what works for you personally. But in the early days, maybe if you're overthinking this, maybe just do a little bit of everything again and figure it out and test. It's going to be slower, it's not going to be scalable, but that's okay. We're not in a rush. There's no rush to build this up. Everyone's like trying to, like, I want to build a 6-figure business in the next 3 months. And yeah, you can do that if you know what you're doing, but you don't need to. Like, it's just not that much of a rush. There's so much time available to build this stuff up. It's about learning, growing, improving, and then you can grow it later. You can get it more systemized later. You can make it more scalable later. It doesn't have to be scalable from day one. So anyway, if this is helpful to you, go ahead and hit the like button below, subscribe to the channel, and follow along as I'm going to do more videos like this showing how I pick every element of my agency to set it up, and then how we build it. Again, we've already started, we're already at 2 kind of free clients so far, and I'm documenting every step of it as we do it so you guys can follow on exactly how we build up this whole agency. So if you want to build something more scalable, then follow along with this, and hopefully we'll help you guys out. So that's all. I'll see you in the next video.